Okay guys, so I was over on my buddy Alex's channel, Mr. Build It, watching his grill station video, and as I'm watching it, I realized I'm in a similar situation. Let me show you. Here's our deck. We did the deck last year, we did the table shortly after. It's a great space, we love hosting. We got the exterior lights as well as a big umbrella, dinners, breakfast, you name it, it's a great spot. Here is our grilling situation. Super depressing, super old. We've had this grill for 4 or 5 years. It's worn down, the inside's rusting, and we can just do so much better. So I partnered with my friends over at ZGrills, and we turned this mediocre space into this outdoor grill station, sleek, modern, equipped with concrete countertops, stainless steel cabinetry, and of course the ZGrills 700D3 model. This is an excellent addition to our backyard, and I cannot wait to show you how we did it. Let's get to work. Alright guys, just like any other project, the first step is going to be getting our materials figured out. Now in this case, I have a detailed set of plans below, including a full materials list as well as a cut list and step-by-step instructions. It's color-coded, you cannot go wrong. It's a very, very simple but enjoyable build. So if you want one of these, be sure to check that out. Now, this video is sponsored by ZGrills. I'll talk a little bit more about them later, but I'm super excited to be partnering with them for this project. Man, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. That was super heavy. Let's wait till tomorrow to get started. And with the dawn of a new day, we could get our miter saw station loosened up and move to a more functional part of the shop. Again, garage shop, so you gotta make space. I'm referencing my plans, again, linked below to figure out where all these 2x4s need to be cut, and then we can start the montage of getting all of these pieces cut to length and using pocket hole screws and regular deck screws to pull everything together. Now, a great rule of thumb and just a generally great practice to get into is labeling everything. As I'd finish a set batch of cuts, I would go through with blue tape, label what those were, what color they were, that way I could match those up to my plans and make sure I didn't get anything crossed or confused. Now, when it comes to assembly, you can use pocket hole screws, you can use deck screws, whatever you have will honestly work fine. I think I used a combination of deck screws and pocket hole screws like I said before. If you do decide to use deck screws, make sure you're pre-drilling and countersinking those in. That way you don't have to worry about any kind of splitting or worry about the screw running awry. It just keeps everything going well. And again, one of those good practices to get into. Now, obviously when dealing with 2x4 construction lumber, there are some cases where deck screws just won't work and pocket hole screws are the way to go. If you do use pocket hole screws, be sure to use the blue coated exterior rated screws since this will be going outside. That'll help keep those from rusting and wearing down over time. I'll link those below. Now, if we're being honest, I'm fairly sure that I totally over-engineered this project, but since we'll have really heavy concrete countertops, not to mention the smoker itself, I wanted to make sure that it was very strong and very sturdy. Now, when it comes to driving in your pocket hole screws, pocket holes are drilled at such an angle that the screw will force that joint to move. So you can see I've got clamps in different areas, clamping the piece into square before I drive those screws, just to make sure that nothing shifts on me. And with the lower structure pretty well assembled, we can move on to attaching our upper framing for the taller cabinet. This will have an interior cabinet as well as an elevated countertop that will serve as a prep station. Now, I also went ahead and pre-drilled and drove in several decking screws to tie the upper and the lower structures together to make sure everything was secure. With the framing out of the way, we could move the carcass and start working on the hardy board that we're going to use to wrap the exterior. Now, while designing this grill station, I went back and forth about what type of finish I wanted to use for our exterior appearance. A lot of guys use stone. Alex used stone on his, turned out great. John Malecki and the guys used stone on theirs as well, and I really like the look. The issue is that stone is insanely expensive. It would have more than doubled the price of this grill station. So I opted to use this hardy board. It's essentially house siding that you can paint whatever color you want. It's extremely affordable by comparison, and it's pretty readily available at every big box store. So it's a great alternative if you're looking to save a little bit of money. Now, like I approach any sheet goods, I always break these down with the track saw and then take them over to the table saw for my final pass to get consistent lengths. That works in almost every case with this, except for the long portion of the grill station. I wanted to match the grain and keep it as continuous as possible all the way around the grill station, so I used the track saw to cut the specific angles and cutouts that I needed in order to do that. Now, if you don't have a track saw, don't worry, there is always a million ways to get things done. You could definitely just use a straight edge and a circular saw along with a jigsaw to make this exact same cut. I think I actually ended up using my multi-tool to finish the cut because I didn't want the blade of the track saw to go too far and damage my material. There's always a ton of ways to get things done, so don't feel intimidated if you don't have a tool that you see on screen. Now, if you do happen to get the plans, or you got the plans and that led you to this video, I did not include measurements for the side panels. That's because I think it's best to go through after you've got your carcass made and take referential measurements. What I mean by that is exactly what you see here, holding it up against the frame and marking the line that you need to cut. That way you have the most accurate fit for your situation. All right, guys, so this is something I want to highlight. I just set this up on the frame and scribed that top line. But when I check it against square, you can see my line is not squaring up. It's square on this, and I already squared it down here. For those of you non-believers, perfectly square. Scoot it over just a hair. There's my line. So we're square over here, but if you look, we're off, I don't know, 1/8 to almost 3/16. And I realized that I scribed it while I was sitting on my garage floor, which slants out of the driveway, so water and stuff can drain out. So instead, I'm going to pick this up, sit it on my table, or my outfeed table, which I know is level because I just made it. Go check out that video, and scribe it again to see how the lines compare. And sure enough, after referencing the level workbench, I was able to correct that line and make it totally square on this end, and just to be safe, checking the other end, also totally square. So we're good to move forward. Always a good idea to double check that. To attach the hardy board, I decided to use exterior rated trim head screws that were 1 5/8 inches long. They hold really well. When you're driving in screws, make sure you're going through the board as opposed to the groove, because the groove's too shallow and you want to make sure you get a good bite. For the end cap panels, in order to line up the grooves, I just attached a clamp with a couple of scrap pieces to give me an extra set of hands to hold that in place, and then I could drive those screws in as well, making sure that my grain lined up and my grooves lined up. Now, the next step in this process is going to be working on the concrete countertops. I'm going to be using melamine for my concrete molds, so while I get that melamine broken down, let's talk about the sponsor of this week's video, ZGrills. Now, ZGrills may not sound super familiar, and that's because they just became a commercial brand recently. However, they've been a grill manufacturer in the game for over 30 years, building pellet grills for several top brands, including Traeger. Now, the grill that I'm using is the 700D3 model. This has a PID controller, a cooking area of 700 square inches, 2 meat probes. It comes with a free cover and has a hopper clean out option, which makes cleanup and switching out wood pellets very easy. This model also comes equipped with double wall construction technology, which means temperature control is less of a concern. It's an extremely easy pellet grill to use, so don't be intimidated if you're a beginner. This is one of the best value pellet grills for this price point and can produce a great smoky flavor. So if you're in the market for a grill or even grill accessories, check the link down below. ZGrills is always running sales. They've got a Father's Day sale going on right now for wood pellets, smokers, accessories, you name it, they've got it. Definitely go check that out. Thanks so much to ZGrills for sponsoring this video. So, turning our attention back to the countertops, we wanted ours to be 2 inches thick, which means we needed to make our walls 2 3/4 in order to account for the base of the form, which is 3/4 inch melamine. I went ahead and pre-drilled and countersunk all of our screws, that way we had nice tight connections, and then ran a bead of 100% silicone around all of the joints. After I applied the silicone, I doubled back with this cake fondant tool. I'll throw a link down to this below, but basically this clears up your silicone bead and gives it distinct lines to where you can scrape off the excess and have a nice rounded over corner for your concrete to mold and shape into. Here's a close-up of what I'm talking about. That nice line allows you to peel the excess silicone away, or in my case, chisel it away, but it's really easy to do. It didn't take very long at all. And that gives you nice, clean, rounded over edges for your concrete to mold to. Before I poured the concrete, I added a layer of paste wax, just rubbing it in a good amount and then buffing up the excess. All this does is to help release the concrete from the molds once you're ready to take them out. Now we could get our concrete mixed, which was quite the endeavor. I didn't quite factor in how exhausting this would be, but a little bit of patience and a little bit of perseverance, and we got it done. Now, I'll be the first to say that I am not a concrete expert by any stretch of the imagination. This is actually my first time ever doing countertops, but what I found worked best for me was getting it to roughly a slurry pancake-esque consistency, filling up the forms about halfway, dropping in our metal reinforcement, and then filling them the rest of the way so we could scree off the top with a straight and level 2x4. Then, once I had all the forms filled, I followed around with a combination of my orbital sander and a dead blow mallet to vibrate and tap and shake the sides of each form to try to release all the air bubbles that got trapped below. That way we can get a clear and nice finish for our countertops. Then, while those were curing, we could turn our attention back to the carcass and I could recruit the help of my lovely wife to move it to the backyard for paint. We put 2 coats of tricorn black paint on using an HVLP sprayer that just stands for high volume, low pressure. It applied really easily. We got both coats on in the afternoon and I really like the way the color came out. Then, once the paint was cured, we moved it back into the shop so I can install the doors. Now, these doors I picked up off of Amazon. I'll throw a link down below. I really like them. They're super clean and a modern look, and they function flawlessly. They have a flange on the inside that slides into the slot of your cabinet, and then a couple different slotted holes that you can drive panhead screws on or a screw and a washer and secure them. Once I had the door installed, I went ahead and installed the casters, just wheels. That way we could move this to the backyard, move it around the patio as needed, and just had a lot of functionality, and we'd be able to take it with us whenever we moved. Then, about 2 days later, the concrete countertops had fully cured so we could start demolding. Now, courtesy of our paste wax and our silicone, we had a really easy process getting everything demolded and a nice rounded over edge. Again, I can enlist the help of my wife to flip the bigger countertop over so we can get a look at the surface and see how we did. Okay, so for the most part, they came out pretty well. This one's just got more dust on it than that one. That's why it's a little bit of a color difference. There's a good amount of, when you get closer, little air pockets. Even though I shook the crap out of these and hit it with my sander on the side to kind of shake air bubbles out, I still got a lot of random air bubbles. I'm gonna do a little research and see if I think what it's called is a slurry coat will work on these to kind of fill some of these in, because some of them are a little bit bigger and less than ideal. Nothing compromising function. Obviously, it's all just aesthetics at this point. But yeah, they're heavy. So if you're gonna do this, have a plan on how you're gonna get these from wherever you're making the forms to your backyard. In our case, I'm going to use our dolly, strap each one individually on and roll it back, forms, and roll them back, and then we'll take this back separately, apply the adhesive, and drop them into place with an 1.5 inch overhang all the way around. So with that said and the carcass ready, I could remove my daughter's walnut collection and wheel the old grill out of there and get ready to move the new grill to the backyard and get this grill station finally put together. And I will say, adding casters was a total game changer for moving this to the backyard. Made it way easier. Now, while I was able to wrestle the 2 smaller countertops onto the dolly and get them to the back by myself, it would have just been really, really dumb to try to do it with the larger one. So huge shout out to my neighbor David, who's always willing to give me a hand carrying big things around when I'm working on different projects. He's even willing to do a little bit of camera work. What a deal. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes. Now, after taking a breather, we can go ahead and use some construction adhesive designed for concrete and lay a few beads down on the top 2x4s of the carcass to secure the countertops. Now, Full disclosure, I'm fairly certain these countertops are plenty heavy enough that they're not going to go anywhere even without construction adhesive, but I'm a belt and suspenders kind of guy, so we went ahead and added it just to be safe. With that in place, we can go ahead and move the countertops into place, making sure that there's an even overhang on each side. This particular design has an 1.5 inch overhang on each side. And from there, it's really just rinse and repeat. And again, make sure you have an extra set of hands. These things are insanely heavy. So here's the issue we're running into. Because I'm an idiot, I did not account for our cord. It comes from the bottom of the hopper. Now, if you buy the grill and you don't do this particular grill station, then this isn't an issue because the hopper just hangs down, the cord just drops. But in this case, the hopper sits on this concrete slab and the cord has nowhere to go, and I don't really want this sitting on the cord out of the back or side and putting pressure on the cord in any one spot. If I was smart and planned ahead, I could have just used a hole cell on a piece of foam insulation and stuck that in the mold right about this location before I put the concrete in, and it could have cured around. I could have had a nice little hole to drop my cord into. But I'm an idiot and I didn't think about it. So now I have to try to drill through 2 inches of concrete. Wish me luck. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the right angle attachment for this drill. You should definitely use one when doing something like this just to protect your wrist. About halfway through, the bit actually gave out on me. Thanks, Spider. So instead, I went ahead and finished it with a chisel and this comically large wrench and was able to punch the hole the rest of the way through. Conveniently, this doesn't have to be pretty, it just needs to be functional. That way I can feed the cord through. Now, earlier in the build process, I added a bottom panel to this lower carcass just to make sure that bugs and rodents and things couldn't hide under there. So of course, nothing's ever easy. I had to find a way to fish this cord both through the concrete hole and through the hole that I cut in the bottom of the carcass. So I just attached a dowel to the cord using a zip tie and fed it through that way, and it worked pretty well. There's always a way, folks. And with the cord issue behind us, we could move on to finishing. I wiped everything off, and then using this stone and concrete sealer I picked off from Amazon, I'll leave a link down below, I used a white Scotch-Brite pad and just buffed it into the surface really well. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, what are those two 2x4s doing there? Excellent question. Off camera, I anchored those down using some tack-on screws directly into the concrete, and then this particular grill model has prefabricated holes designed to attach the top to the base. Instead, in this case, I used those holes to secure a screw through the side into those 2x4s to make sure that this was secure and not going anywhere. After an obligatory shake test, we could call this one done.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for following along. I'm absolutely pumped to finally have a grill station. I've wanted one like this for years, and I'm so excited to have one to complete our back door space. Great for hosting, great for entertaining. It's going to be awesome. I got to try a lot of new techniques in this, including exterior cabinetry and concrete countertops, a lot of new hurdles to tackle, and it was a lot of fun. A huge shout out to ZGrills for sponsoring this video and hooking it up with the 700 D3 model. Remember, the link down below if you're looking for a smoker. Thanks, Ozzy. If you're looking for a smoker, you're looking to get into wood pellet burning, it is a great option. They've got a lot of cool stuff over there, so definitely go check them out in the link below. That's going to do it for this week's video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll see you in the next one.